So, as I said, my name is Lorraine Murray from Connected Kids. I may have a few more people join us, but I want to keep this session quite short so that you can make the most of it. And I will put the link at the end into the chat box so that you can download the poster, or just go to our website and search for mindful tips for schools and you'll find it. We have a lot of people that take our course that come from an educational background, so we are constantly giving them advice and tips and ideas of what to do. And I have a son in high school, so I know how stressful it is. I can see the stress that he brings home, what it's like for him. And certainly the ability to introduce these ideas to young people can be very helpful for them, especially if they're transitioning through different subjects or from classroom to classroom. And we've obviously just all been in lockdowns and pandemics for the past nearly 2 years now. So, there's a lot of stress hanging around here. So these tips are very simple, but hopefully you'll find them useful too. I'm just going to share my screen with you, if that's okay. Hopefully this will bring it up. And if it does, I can bring you onto that. So this is the page on my website where you can see 5 tips for a mindful classroom. And over here is the poster that you can download for free. So let me get into it. I don't know if you've got any experience or not of teaching meditation. I work with all types of people. So I work with people who've got lots of experience of meditation for either teaching kids or their own practice. And I work with people who've only heard the word and not really done anything else. So I take this at a kind of quite basic beginner's level, but if there's something you really want to ask me, I'll do my very best to explain that to you. So this is what you will see if you go onto the poster and you're able to download that. So one of the things I'm really keen on is posture. And I've got here, sitting with feet on the ground helps teens feel more grounded, and this helps with focus. And I was refreshing today, actually. There's a lovely TED talk by a lady called Amy Cuddy, who talks about the importance of our body posture and our body language on how it makes the type of person it helps us to become. And it's because of the neural pathways and the feedback loops and the information that come through our nervous system, depending on whether our bodies are quite, crouched round like this, or whether we sit up and we really open our chest and our heart center and we feel more confident as a result of that. But also when whether we're practicing the regular approach to meditation, or whether we are just trying to be mindful in the moment, wherever we are and whoever we're with, our posture is really important. And so for young people that you're working with and teens that you work with, it's important to help them understand that having both feet on the ground is a really useful thing for attention and focus. So there's 2 different ways to look at this. One is from the Amy Cuddy view, which, she's a doctor, I think she's a psychiatrist, a doctor of research. So she's done the research into the nervous system feeding back and why it's important for us in terms of our posture and how we hold ourselves. But I kind of work, I'm not a trained doctor, so I won't go into that, but I will say that from my 20 years experience of working with young people, and certainly working with the energy aspect of meditation, that when we have our feet flat on the ground, it helps us feel more grounded and safe. So it gives us the strong magnetic connection to the surface of the earth, whether we're in a high-rise building, whether we're in the middle of a forest, that connection to the earth comes through the soles of our feet. So when you're in class with young people and you notice that maybe they've got their feet off the ground, or they've got their legs all wrapped around each other, as we sometimes do, we sit all quite twisted when we're at a desk. If you can encourage them just to look at how, it might not be you telling them to uncurl their body and put their feet on the ground. It might be an opportunity for you to get them to maybe close their eyes, have a few breaths, and go check in with how comfortable your body feels right now. And when you do that, you suddenly go, oh my goodness, that doesn't feel that comfortable at all. Why am I sitting like this? And you see them start to almost uncurl and put their feet on the ground. as the teacher of a classroom, you also want to do that too. So watch you're not leaning to one side or the other side, because that's you off balance. And really what you want to do is stand with your feet firm on the ground and really concentrate on your core. And that, they call it the mountain pose in yoga. It's the ability to feel strong as a mountain. And when we feel safe, when our nervous system feels safe, when our energy feels safe and grounded, then our brain can do what it wants to do in school, which is absorb new information. If we are not feeling safe or we feel ungrounded, then we are teetering on the brink of the fight, flight, or freeze response in our nervous system. And energetically, we're feeling off balance. So our priority is not about learning anything new. Our priority is about getting back into a feeling of being safe. So the more that you can encourage young people to just be aware of that connection they have with the earth, with the ground underneath them, it helps them energetically and through the nervous system feel a little bit stronger and supported as well. Any questions you have about that, you can drop me a note. The second point, the second tip I have for in classrooms is that sometimes kids really struggle to sit still. And I can't begin to imagine what it must be like with 30 kids in a class, all fidgeting and all moving. If you work on the posture part, then that might help some of them feel a little bit safe and supported, because one of the reasons that young people move and fidget so much is because they feel ungrounded and they feel unsafe. And their whole nervous system is trying to self-soothe. Their energetic system is trying to self-soothe. So that's why they move and they fidget. So it might be that you purposefully give them something to fidget with, and something that they can use mindfully, so it might be a pen top, or it might be something, we had fidget spinners a few years ago, which were very popular. You see kids wanting to hold their phone, ideally not technology, I would say, but something that just, even like a stress ball, something that just gives them a little bit of comfort, something they might pass between their hands as well. I'm going to talk about a hand position you can use very discreetly in class, which might help with that. But it is about helping them understand that that movement is them trying to self-soothe. So if you bring in some posture, then you might find the movement kind of decreases. And if you are trying to bring in some mindful moments or the opportunity at the beginning of a class, certainly before you do anything, just to get them to watch the posture and to breathe, you might find that that really supports them, and they fidget less as a result. But if they are fidgeting, it's hard, because if you give them a hard time, or it's just going to make their energy and their nervous system become even more agitated, so they're going to fidget even more. So the more that you can help them, even with some mindful movement, it might be moving their toes, for example, and tapping their toes in their shoes, so not making a noise necessarily, but just anything like that, or rocking their soles of their feet from side to side in their shoes, or doing kind of a circular motion so that their foot's going like that inside their shoes, or backwards and forwards, or side to side. And that again is quite discreet, but it's a fidget, but it's a mindful fidget. And as I said, if you help them do that, then the nervous system responds by feeling a little bit more restored and refreshed and a little bit calmer as well. The third tip I thought would be quite useful is the opportunity to use a sound or a bell. I feel like if you've ever done psychology, you'll be thinking of Pavlov's dogs, where they used to ring a bell and the dogs would start to salivate if they would be given food. So they were trained to do that through the sound of a bell. So it's kind of similar in a sense, where we're using a particular sense of sound. And the idea of the sound is so that we stop during the lesson and we take a deep breath, and we particularly concentrate on the out breath. So the idea is that the attention, although we can rest on the in breath, it's really the out breath. Now, I get that some kids might play up and they might, make fun of this and make a noise. So what? Actually, that is actually helping them to calm down the nervous system. Although your brain might be telling you that that's not happening, that is actually what's happening in their body. If you're working with younger kids, get them to make a sound. It can be a silly sound as well, a noise, or whatever noise it is. and they make that sound in that time. And what's interesting is that if you really rest your attention on the out breath from beginning to end of the out breath, it sends a relaxation signal through your nervous system for everything to go back into rest and digest. So if there has been a lot of activity, you've maybe done the posture, you've given them some mindful fidgeting to do, but you make this agreement with them before. When we hear this sound, I'm going to play this sound. You have to join in too, of course. Breathe in. Let's all breathe out. Who can really empty their lungs? Who can really make that the longest breath ever? You know, and that's going to help to calm down the nervous system too. So it's a great one for reducing stress. The senses, we have 5 senses available to us all the time. They're collecting information and they're feeding it through our whole body systems to keep us safe, to nourish us, to keep us in balance. But one of the approaches of meditation is to choose one of those senses and deliberately rest our attention on that, and to see how that feels and how that responds in their mind. It's a great one if someone has a really busy mind, because it's about choosing a sense. So maybe you do it collectively as a class. Maybe there's one, you know, people take turns, or there's a vote which sense that you're going to concentrate on. And if it's the sense of sound, for example, and you're not ringing a bell, then you can really just sit with the attention on the sounds that you hear. And sounds can be outside, you know, the classroom, it can be in the classroom, it could be in the person's body themselves. You know, yeah, you might get some, you know, kids in class making deliberate sounds, but even if they giggle and laugh, that's still a sound. You know, you're still listening to a sound. And to be perfectly honest, when we're teaching young people meditation, we don't get hung up if they do laugh, because it's a great stress reliever. It's like yawning, it's like crying. Giggling is a way of endorphins being released into the bloodstream to help with the stress. So just timing it for 30 seconds, helping them to concentrate on that sense and just really tuning into it. Do realize that when you start to do that, it can feel very uncomfortable for young people too. They can feel quite exposed, particularly in the teen levels. So some kids will not want to close their eyes, and others will want to have their eyes open. So if they do want to have their eyes open, again, just setting some nice boundaries with them, that have your eyes open, place your pencil or whatever you've got in front of you, put it there, look at it, but have a nice, soft, relaxed gaze. Don't stare at it. And that allows them to have their eyes open as they're concentrating on one of their senses. And the wonderful thing about concentrating on senses is that they take them with them wherever they go. So, you know, they've always got this little mindful tool in their pocket. So when they're bored, when they would usually turn to their phone, when they're going somewhere from A to B, even from class to class, they can just pay attention to that particular sense. And you can maybe help them understand that if they've got fearful thoughts or anxious thoughts about something, if they keep thinking those thoughts, it creates a lot of anxiety and stress in the body. When you concentrate on one of the senses, the attention goes away from the thoughts, even if it's only for 30 seconds, gives the whole body and mind respite, and you're concentrating on that particular sense. So it's like a mini break, you know, for your mind, just to help them in those 30 seconds use something around them. And yeah, experiment with the different things, the different senses, and see how that goes. Even sometimes I get people who say, oh, how can I concentrate on taste, you know, but maybe they've had lunch, maybe they've had a coffee, maybe they've, you know, had their breakfast, maybe they've just brushed their teeth, you know, been chewing gum. So they'll have a taste in their mouth and they'll be able to taste that, even if they take their attention, you know, to that part of their body. And then the final thing is connecting fingers. So basically, if you practice meditation, you maybe have seen people sit with tips of their fingers together, so the thumb and first finger. That's a typical meditation pose, not holding the hands up in the air, but letting them rest in the lap. And I suppose if I've done research into meditation, so I know that, and plus my own practice, I know that that's more than just connecting fingertips together. It's almost like yoga for the hands, where you are helping the energy that flow through the body come into balance. It's a very grounding, what's called a mudra. So it's a hand position that we use when we're trying to focus and concentrate, or when we're trying to meditate. And it also, but if you think about how naturally the nerve endings in our fingers are so sensitive, then again, it's a great place for us to rest our attention there instead of up here, you know, or whatever else is going on in our life. So we've got the opportunity to teach them this mudra. Now, if they go around like this, they might feel very self-conscious, but you can invite them to just put their hands in their pockets, you know, or if they're listening to you, hands under the desks, and they can hold that mudra. Holding the mudra is great, and breathing with the mudra, closing on the in-breath, opening on the out-breath, and that helps them keep their attention there if they find their mind wandering because they've not got it. But really just holding this mudra is the same effect of putting your feet flat on the ground. So it's a really nice way to help them balance the energy and feel more supported. So I hope that this really short introduction is helpful to you. I'm just going to stop the share now. I did say if you wanted to ask questions, you could. I can see some people are listening, but they're maybe not asking questions, and that's fine. But you know, you might be listening to this later on when I post it on our Facebook group. We've got a Calm Kids group, so you can put it on there if you have a question. If you want more tips like this, I would signpost you to, I have a YouTube channel, Connected Kids, and every time I think of a good idea, I put it up there. All the people I train, they come up with brilliant ideas all the time. So I put them up there as well with their permission. So yeah, so that's just a little whistle-stop tour through the poster. And I will also, if you join the Facebook group, let me just put that in here just now, so you've got it, and then you can find it and come back. But if you've got that Facebook group and you join, then it means that you can see the poster, or just go to our website and just Google for mindful tips in the classroom. And if you do that, you'll be able to benefit from that there. Let me just put that in the chat. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day. And whoever you are and whatever you're doing, thank you so much for trying to teach young people meditation. I learned as a teenager. I found it life-saving. With no word of a lie, that was just really my personal experience. It was extraordinary. And as a mom, a foster mum, which can be very challenging sometimes, I find it's a real lifesaver again, because it helps me cope with some really challenging behaviour. But if you've got any thoughts, you can always get in touch and ask me more. Thanks for listening, and have a wonderful day. Namaste.